at 1:32. I guess, thank you.
The button on the top.
Thanks. Go around the room. This should be easy.
Charles Smith from Sonoma County Transit.
And Petty from Onward.
Dawn Gooch, SCTCA.
Dana Teray, SCTCA.
Colin Toma, Disability Services and Legal Center.
Beth Britt, Transportation Planner, SCTCA. Up to the screen. We can start with Kathleen.
Oh, hi, Kathleen Cortez, Area Agency on Aging Human Services.
Ken Rossi, Paratransit Rider.
Aubrey Lane, Transportation Coordinator at the Sebastopol Area Senior Center.
Angela Conti, community member.
Introduce yourself.
Transit.
Okay. And we're going to go on to approval of minutes. Is there any discussion on that? Nope. Anybody want a motion to approve?
Wait, do we have a quorum?
Oh, no, probably not.
Is Kathleen on to, no, then you don't have enough people for a
Yeah.
Now we vote whether we want to do a committee of the whole.
Okay, we'll vote to proceed as committee of the whole. Let's do a vote.
I'll second.
Yep. Yeah. Okay, great. We'll proceed then. Okay, we'll be receiving presentations today. Let's go to
And it's onward.
discussion.
No, onwards, right?
Right. Okay. Onward rides with Kim Petty.
Hi. We had 2 items for today, and I think my colleague Eric hasn't joined. So first thing I wanted to talk about today that was in the agenda packet was the mobility transformed. Maybe should I join the Zoom so that people can see? Sure. Visuals, would that help? Hang on a second, guys.
Kim, do you want me to pull that up? Is it something we have?
We do have a PowerPoint presentation.
But that's okay. I can do it on my screen.
Okay.
See if I can join without audio. So it doesn't cause a
Recording in progress.
Oh yeah, that's not. All right, I might want to pull it up.
You could just, if you mute your computer.
I know my buttons have started disappearing on my computer, so I can't see. It's like the digital display. Let me. So that's part of my challenge here. But if you can't get it up, then I will try this again. I was going to do, yeah, let's maybe we'll go ahead and start there. Because there's 2 things to talk about. One, that's a conference that's coming up next November, and then the other is just a little introduction. I saw, last meeting you heard a little bit about Go Grandparents, so I thought it would be good to share a little bit about what we're doing at Onward. Thank you. So I know some of you have heard a high-level introduction to us, but we want to go ahead to the next slide. We do a couple of things at Onward. The first is what we call companion rides. It's a door-through-door ADA compliant rideshare service designed for older adults, individuals with disabilities. And then we also have a software platform that enables everything from Uber, actually all the way up through critical care ambulance, because we work with large health systems to create basically a single marketplace for all levels of transportation with all of the different possible payment types. So we work with probably 70% of the hospitals in the San Francisco Bay Area down to San Jose, and increasingly are doing work with transit partners like the city of Hayward. We fully turnkey operate their city-operated paratransit program. And then we also work in overflow capacity for traditional paratransit operators like MB to say, okay, where you have, if you go to the next slide, actually, we help with dial-a-ride and ride choice programs, off-right rides, how do you manage peak demand, some first and last mile connectivity on fixed routes, et cetera. So if you go next slide, a lot of where we're filling in with traditional paratransit programs is in the peaks and valleys where it doesn't, where your core fleet doesn't have enough capacity to operate for where those spikes are happening in the day, or where it doesn't make sense to have a large vehicle out on the road with drivers paid hourly in those valley times in the evenings or early mornings. On the next slide, so our drivers are driving their own personal vehicles. So we operate like Uber or Lyft with 1099 drivers. The big difference is our ride service is door through door with assistance. And our drivers are all first aid CPR certified. They are drug tested according to the FDA, DOT standards. They are fingerprint background checked. They have physicals to make sure they're driver worthy to meet FDA standards. And then we also crosswalk those standards with CMS's standards for programs for all-inclusive care for the elderly, which require that drivers be vaccinated, TB tested, and trained up on a whole bunch of other topics. They actually train alongside emergency medical technicians on how to enable safe transfers from wheelchairs, et cetera. On the next slide, we do a lot in our technology platform to help optimize the rider experience based on what we've learned. So we've done some research actually in collaboration with AARP, looking at what riders are looking for in their driver preferences. We've heard things like, they understand my language. They understand my condition and they speak my primary language are been two of the things we've heard most loudly. So we've built into the platform things like favorite driver rider matching. If you prefer a certain driver, you see them on a routine and regular basis. Also gender-based pairing for if somebody prefers a female driver because of whatever their life history has brought to them. And then the ability to match riders with drivers who speak their primary language, because we know that's also a core element of safety for enabling individuals with disabilities. Next slide. So we have done a pretty good job. We've got good star reviews, strong fulfillment. We measure our on-time performances within 15 minutes of scheduled pickup time. And so we've been able to deliver pretty strongly. We're operating all the way up to Sonoma County today. We do a lot of the transportation for Agewell Pace in Roanoke Park today. Next slide. And, people seem to like us. And we'll keep going. Is there another slide after that? Okay. One of the things that we're doing is that's a bit unique is when we do operate as the turnkey service, yes, we can enable telephone-based coordination for those individuals who don't have smartphone. But with the city of Hayward, we launched with them in this summer what we call text-to-book. So we heard pretty loud and clear that just like the rest of us, older adults and individuals with disabilities don't want to download another app and remember another password. And so we enabled instead text-based booking. So you text the word book to a phone number that has Hayward's eligibility database. It verifies that number is tied to an eligible rider. You enter a date of birth and you're able to book your transportation for them. We're enabling rideshare, companion ride, and wheelchair vans. And so if you are wheelchair bound, you will see the option to book wheelchair rides. If you are not, you will not. and so on and so forth. So we handle all of the fare collection, everything up there. So that's transparent to the rider, what their fare will be at the time of booking. And so we were incredibly pleased to see 72.8% of those riders who are 70 plus or disabled in the Hayward program switched immediately from telephonic booking to text-based booking with the deployment of that option. Next slide. We're now building voice AI agents that help support the multilingual community that we're serving there. So a lot of variability in language in the East Bay. And so we have now launched Book a Ride that speaks 15 different languages. And, we're going to keep building on that to say, where's my driver? Who's my driver? All those things so that even when the call center is not open or something like that, there's ways to access transportation for those individuals without smartphones. So next slide. And when all else fails, there's real humans. So, even with the texting and voice AI agents, we also still have live people based in the United States, largely in California, answering phones to help troubleshoot and manage complexity as things come up. So I think that might be all I had in here. Oh, this is a little bit more. The city of Hayward, their program is measured by an Alameda County tax measure called Measure BB. It's a half-cent sales tax in the county. And they, when we started with them, were very under-enrolled. So they were underutilizing the funding that was coming from taxpayer dollars. They had a mandate to fix that. I don't have the great numbers up here. They were only doing 49 wheelchair accessible rides a month because they just couldn't get people to show up. They basically were just enabling Uber and they just had phone calls. So they now are doing about 400 wheelchair accessible rides a month since launching in July. So that volume's gone up. They're doing 600 of the door through door, and all at the same time, the Uber traditional rides have also grown. So their ridership has gone from about 1,000 participants to 1,300 in the 3 months. Their goal is to get to 2,000. Their volume of rides went from 1,500 to 4,000 per month in the 3 months since launching. Their goals were growth. It's because they had these tax dollars that they needed to be putting to work. So, and all of these services are available with 2 hours notice. So no material advanced booking required even for the wheelchair accessible, because we work with a large network of local wheelchair operators and we build out a tiered network. So if the primary operator, then secondary and otherwise can pick up those rides. So that's the background, just to kind of give you another proxy sense to look at as you're exploring things. And I think that's all on now. Well, this is just a quote from one of their writers that I loved. This woman had had a stroke. It had affected her speech, and she was not comfortable coordinating her rides via telephone. And so what she said when we launched the text to book was, I can do this. I've got my life. That's what we're here for. So if anybody wants any other information, I think I'm on all the meeting invites, so you can probably find me there, but I thought it would be good just to do a bit of an introduction to what we're up to. Any questions?
Is it possible to book for someone else?
Yes. Yeah, so we actually, you can use us for direct to consumer rides. Download our app just like you would elsewhere. And in the platform, we enable a care partner or a third-party coordinator. So both. So you can be somebody who is basically a coordinator who books on somebody else's behalf, or you can be somebody who gets all of the notifications about somebody else's rides. So the care partner seat can choose, and all of our notifications go out by text message, email, or IVR phone call based on your preferences and your technology capabilities. And so, riders and care partners can opt into those different notifications and be able to monitor trips in real time.
You said that you have a 2-hour notice, but you can also do like an automatic weekly pickup setup.
Yeah, we encourage individuals to book with 2 hours advance notice for the companion and wheelchair modes, but the Ubers can be on demand. I will tell you, we've got 90% fulfillment for those modes with less than 1 hour notice. So we do better than that, but we like to see our fulfillment numbers as 97 to 99% versus 90%. So just to make sure, we encourage people to book with a little more notice. Now, that
Okay.
varies obviously depending on location. So City of Hayward, and we're in San Francisco, Alameda County, and Contra Costa County. I can make those commitments. Sonoma County, we probably aren't quite there yet, but we do have definitely same day service, just not probably 2 hour notice yet.
How do you see it working with Sonoma County?
Well, only if Sonoma County has a problem to solve, obviously. I think what we've seen is a lot of agencies are contracting with a company so that they can solve for the fact that people don't have smartphones. And then they end up with disparate data in a bunch of different systems because you use, this way. When you're booking this mode of transportation, you call this person. When you do this, you go over here, and everything ends up being very scattered. So we can often be a unifier for some of these fragmented dial-a-ride or ride choice or non-typical paratransit programs. With the core paratransit, we can be a backup, to support that core paratransit operation. We have an open API for technology, meaning that we have basically an easy spec that software companies can write to. So most of the big paratransit operational softwares are connecting to our platform today so that it stays seamless from the rider experience perspective. So you have like Spare and Rideco and Trapeze and all of these softwares out there. They're connecting to our API so that the core operating team can push rides to us for their overflow capacity. And so we're doing that a lot. We do a lot with Transdev and MV.
Yeah, sounds great.
We have a question online.
Hi, I just was wondering if what catchment areas are you in? You kind of partially answered that, but I serve Napa and Solano as well as Sonoma. Are there any plans of expanding?
We move into new markets with partners, right? So we don't come in, like I said, we do a little bit of direct to consumer business, but mostly we'll say, hey, Solano County has this need. If you came, we could, make sure that you saw 300 trips per month. And then we would just make sure we had driver capacity to support that.
Thank you.
And so that's a lot, for example, right now we're working on a large deployment with Omnitrans in San Bernardino because they have an overflow capacity for their core paratransit operation. And so we're deploying there. We're about to do that in a few other areas with partners.
So when setting up a contract, can it be like a seasonal thing or temporary or generally?
We have to hire drivers and we have to give them sustainable work and a living wage, right? And so we want to make sure that they have a repeatable, they are independent contractors. We want them to have a repeatable book of business, and because of all of the background checks and credentialing and hoops that we make them go through, physicals and drug testing and all of the things, we like to keep them.
Well, I'm curious about how they manage the insurance.
We carry, one of our greatest expenses is insurance. I will tell you, the rideshare industry, most of the money goes to drivers and the insurance company.
Yeah.
So we carry, the drivers are required to carry a TNC rider on their personal insurance. And then we carry a large automotive coverage on top of that. Yeah.
Kathleen, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I just wondered, it looks like most of your partners are healthcare organizations, hospitals. And I'm wondering if you've had any conversations with the organizations here in Sonoma County, like Providence, Kaiser, Sutter Health.
Yeah, so we are working on a master contract with Sutter Health right now. We do a little bit of work with them in San Francisco today. We've had some conversations with Providence, organizations like Providence and Sutter, as you know, are very large organizations. So Sutter, Providence decisions largely get made in Seattle because they're part of a really large health system, and Sutter decisions get made in Sacramento. So yes is the short answer. We're still in progress with having some of those conversations, and Kaiser likewise is made nationally. So it's a whole another decision architecture.
I'm sorry, but have you reached out to the regional centers like North Bay Regional Center, who covers all the counties up here?
Yeah, we're working with Sutter and Sacramento to deploy just the companion rides piece. They have a software program that they're using for some of the other stuff that they're doing. But they are planning, if we get through contracting, then what we would do is communicate out to all of the local facilities to support the companion ride as an offering. Because what happens with hospitals is they book traditional rideshare and then send a nurse to stand on the curb with a patient. It's insanity, right? This is a very expensive, high demand resource that doesn't have a lot of time, already can't do everything they need to do. And so, having a door-through-door option ends up being incredibly important for them.
I actually was alluding to the regional centers, which oversee services being provided for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities.
Oh, no, you know what? I haven't.
Okay. It might be something because they do have a traditional service that takes people to day programs, but they don't have that for everybody. They have ages all the way from birth all the way to very, very senior. And I'm wondering if that would be something that they might be interested in.
It could be, and if you have a contact, I'd welcome the introduction. I think we have not done all that we can for departments of developmental disabilities, so to speak. So, and actually, that's one of the things we're looking at in San Bernardino right now is a bunch of their programs. They've got some really nice programs for vocational programs for individuals with disabilities, and they go to day services as part of those vocational programs. And so they're looking at having us support those.
Yeah, I'd be happy to introduce you to the executive director of North Bay Regional Center, Gabriel Rogan, if you'd like to have some discussions with him.
That would be fantastic.
Okay. I'll put my information in the chat if possible. I don't know if it's enabled.
Yes, I will get it somehow.
Okay.
I think somebody in this room will be able to resolve that. But
Okay.
I have some more questions.
Yeah, go for it.
Sorry, I came in late, so I may have missed pieces, but so the booking software, you're not booking it with, you're not sourcing with paratransit operators. You guys are providing it yourselves, and it's usually separate from paratransit, or you're providing paratransit trips as well.
Yes, and
Yes, that's
yeah. So sometimes, like Hayward's a good example. They are not, they've got East Bay Paratransit in Hayward, and that is funded federally, different funding mechanism, and then they've got this tax measure for specialty transportation. And so there we're operating in isolation. It's our software platform, our call center, our rides, plus subcontractors.
Both paratransit and
but it's not FTA paratransit.
So it's beyond paratransit basically.
It's like a dial-a-ride program is probably a way to think about it. And so there, everything is happening in our software. In the case of somebody like East Bay Paratransit or Santa Rosa Paratransit, we would operate more than likely as a subcontractor, the core operator. They would probably already have a software that would feed rides.
We have trapeze
into our, exactly right.
And so then trapeze, what you're saying,
trapeze would push us or we'd grab a manifest.
We can't serve basically.
Yeah.
Right. So we're serving. I'm just trying to find it. So we obviously want people in our region to have as much access to transportation as they can. So, but I'm trying, Charles does the county.
Yep.
I do city.
Yep.
And so we, we don't necessarily have rides that we can't serve, except there maybe, I mean, there probably are some that we can't serve, but we don't deny anybody rides. There's not, I would imagine if it was same day, there might be more demand, which is what you're offering, but, so there would have to be an addition, that's a beyond paratransit, that's a funding source that would have to be identified. But beyond that gap, like, is there other, I'm just trying to think of where,
and it's not every program that
Right.
needs us,
Right,
right?
right,
You saw the slide, at least with the sort of the peaks and valleys, right? You've got this bell curve
Right.
in every paratransit program
Right.
of, we have a 9 a.m. peak and a 12 p.m. peak because that's when the adult day service was started, or whatever the thing is. And our fleet doesn't have capacity to do those runs. And so how do we shave the tops and fill the valleys where it doesn't make sense to have your workforce out in the large vehicle to run one person to dialysis at 4 a.m. either?
Right.
It's just not a logical use of resources. And so it can
pre-COVID, we definitely had day program peaks that we basically were like, we're not taking subscriptions for these time periods.
Yeah.
That hasn't really returned.
Yeah.
For us in the same extreme that it was pre-COVID. So yeah, so I'm, I mean, I'm very, I mean, it's important for us here to understand where there are gaps in the services and it's hard for me to identify those or know those off the top of my head where there are gaps beyond.
I mean,
the 3/4 mile.
What I'll tell you is when we usually get the call from the core operating services is when on-time performance starts faltering.
Right.
And there's a need to intervene in some way.
Right.
So it's bad.
Right. So pre-COVID, we had approximately just over 2 riders per hour.
Yeah.
And so then in COVID, we did that's kind of a benchmark that we follow. And like during COVID, that went down. Less people, and you're getting one person per vehicle, and it's been a while since we're back up to about that 2 riders per hour. And so we do see increased late arrivals because we're trying to be more efficient.
Yeah.
But it's not in a problematic rate. The other thing I want to, just looking at your numbers from, we just implemented, what's the trapeze that's got their like
pass,
their text and, where they text or email the notifications. Yes, the passenger portal. Yep. Passenger portal is where basically a passenger can book their own rides or service provider can book rides for multiple people. And, let's say let's say between 1,000 and 300 people that use it monthly, whatever that number is. There's only like, let's say 1 to 4% that will have and we've had it for the last 6-8 months now. And we really tell like our operations try to tell everybody about it. And so you have that. And then we also have a passenger notification system, which allows for email, call, or text. Prior, to confirm appointment, to confirm pickup, and then the day before, or maybe when you book it, then the day before, and then 30 minutes before arrival. Yeah. And it's a very small percentage that sign up for that too, which is just a curiosity to me. And so your numbers are really interesting, and it might be just a different demographic.
I think there's something about the texting.
Yeah.
There's something about the texting versus going to a portal.
Right.
I just
yeah.
It's
but even like texting to notify of a booking.
But they still have to go somewhere to request it. They still have to find a way to request it. So the thing we did with Hayward, so there was texting, and actually Eric, who's joined up there, he's my director of marketing, did a beautiful job of creating very visual direct mail pieces that we sent out to all of their riders, and the direct mail had pictures of phones, and it said, here's how to do it, textbook to this number and da, 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 and it really walked through in a very visual way. And that was, I think, a big part of it. Along with refrigerator magnets, direct mail, and a really good FAQs on the website. There you go. Refrigerator magnets.
Okay, well, we're probably going to have to move on,
Yeah.
but we have your info, Kim. So anybody can contact you and get more information.
Yes, there was one other part that's sort of bundled in there, the conference for 2026 that Eric can speak to probably really quickly.
Okay, sure.
That's
Yeah.
okay. Do you mind bringing up, there was another document, it's like a conference wrote like a 2-page PDF, but Eric, probably you want to go ahead and speak to the conference next November?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me. My name's Eric. I'm the director of marketing at Onward. I believe I've been in contact with a few people in this room, actually. We are, so I'm a part of a group that's starting to pull paratransit into its own conversation at the national level. We've, come out of organizations like CTAA, APTA, organizations like that, where paratransit has in some cases been sort of on the sidelines. And exciting news for this group is that the first annual Mobility Reimagined conference is actually going to be in Santa Rosa in 2026. And so we have started to put out feelers. I know that a number of people on the team have been in contact with folks at transit agencies, paratransit agencies around here, talking with MV, I believe, as well. So it's something that I could get more information to this group about, but we would love to, have further discussions about participation and make sure that you guys have a great representation. From talking about some of the incredible work that you guys do in order to fill gaps in your communities, looking for things, topics around innovation, that sort of thing. So we're just starting to get the formal pieces together for the conference, but, getting the initial groups involved as sort of the anchors is really the focus at this moment. So
and
would love
this
to,
is it's November 6th. What is it?
November 6th.
November 6th and 7th, 2026 at the Hyatt.
Yep.
But this, didn't originate from Eric or I. This originated from Eileen Collins, who leads accessible services for TriMet in Portland, and the Jack from Orange County and, Missouri. And so, we just happened to run into Eileen in Boston at a APTA conference a few weeks ago. And she said, I'm planning this conference and it's going to be in Santa Rosa. And I was like, I live in Santa Rosa. We should talk about how we could help. So Eric and I have been trying to help bring together sort of how do you showcase Sonoma County as part of bringing in a national audience for this paratransit program. So
that'd be great.
Welcome ideas from the team on things that you might want to highlight or showcase or speak about at that event, and so we can get it on the agenda.
You're still in the planning process, so you don't have a portal yet for signing.
Not a portal. In the agenda packet, there's a flyer that kind of gives you the information and save the date at this standpoint. And we'll make sure to bring back to this community, this council, when we have a little bit more details on a sign up portal and all that good stuff.
That reminds me, when we talked, I had a to-do that I didn't do, which is I believe the city has like a kind of a conference track, that maybe the economic development
yeah.
that has like an economic, I don't know all the services they provide, but I want to make sure you guys get in touch with them.
Perfect.
What they can help the conference. Yeah.
Perfect.
So I don't do that.
That would be great. That would be great. Yeah, I think things around the smart train, it might not be on.
It's off.
Button.
Thank you. There, I'm talking a lot.
Okay.
There is,
Yeah.
sorry, quick point. If you scroll down to the bottom of this document, there is a QR code to scan to get more information, get your name involved for notifications as things evolve and stuff. So definitely a good resource.
Yeah, and since it's here highlighting Sonoma County,
Yeah.
You know, Santa Rosa and the other.
Yeah, we should all be there.
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks, Eric.
It looks like Ken's got his.
Thanks, you guys. That was great. I guess we're moving on to the Comprehensive Transportation Plan Engagement Update. Ross?
But before we do, there's someone's got his hand raised.
Screen.
Oh.
Ken Rossi, do you have a question?
Yes, I do. This is Ken Rossi. I'm in Santa Rosa. I'm a paratransit user. You guys were talking about the thing with Sutter and some kind of thing with the regional centers. There's possibility of that happening for other agencies like the Earl Baum Center and things like that. Just a general curiosity. Thank you.
Who would like to take that?
I think I can. How you doing, Ken? This is Yuri.
Oh, hello, Yuri. Good to see
Hi.
you.
Thanks for joining us. Ken's one of the members of we have a paratransit user group that the city's it's different people who ride paratransit. We haven't met in a while because we keep encouraging people to come to this meeting. So Ken, thanks for coming to this meeting and asking questions. And so I think the most direct answer, Ken, is that this is Onward is a service that is not necessarily here in Santa Rosa at this time, but they are presenting their service and that they use in other communities. And so they were just taking suggestions of agencies to network with if they did implement it here in Santa Rosa. So nothing available at this time.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you. And good to see you, Yuri. And hello to everybody else.
Good afternoon. So I am going to give a brief update on public engagement related to the Comprehensive Transportation Plan. And thank you. I will share.
I think you have to push the button.
Oh, it's green. It's real green. Yeah. I just have to, I do project too. So, let's see. How's that look? Excellent. So let's see. So public engagement is a key component of the Comprehensive Transportation Plan. We're doing an update based on a more in-depth outreach that was done for the previous iteration, but a lot has changed in the past few years. So we really want to reflect that. And we really want to reflect the diverse transportation needs and priorities of Sonoma County residents. So basically, the goals here align with the broader aspects of the community-based transportation, the CBTP program, and also the Comprehensive Transportation Plan's vision of a more connected, equitable, and sustainable transportation system. So this is kind of what we started with as we began getting out into the community. For the strategy, we used a phased approach, kind of multimodal, emphasized listening, collaboration, and transparency. Some of that, particularly for this community, accessibility was a big factor. We used Typeform for our survey, which is unlike some survey platforms, fully ADA compliant. And the target audiences. So this, let's see. Did I skip a slide? No, I didn't. Basically, we were looking at getting a good both geographical and just population overview of Sonoma County. I don't know that, it's hard. We're a big county. I think a big thing was we wanted to get out not only just to different places geographically, but also, farmers markets represent a certain strata of society, as does maybe a fix-it fair or something like that, or some of these other groups. So we really leaned quite heavily on some of our partners, the CBOs, Latino service providers, La Familia Sana, and some others, just in terms of getting out there and then helping to co-opt organizations, events that were already happening, so we could kind take advantage. And a big part of it was promoting the online survey. But also, we had an initial kind of pop-up to launch the event. Certainly tabling, not just me. We were out there in a number of spots, and ideally, since we're usually out getting feedback on various surveys, efforts, and people really get survey fatigue is very real. So we tried to kind of have materials that were appropriate for various events. So we tried to kind of share and go back and forth. Social media, of course, we don't have a huge reach ourselves, but we really appreciate the help that we got from our partners in getting the word out. And then, as I mentioned earlier, an online bilingual survey that was kind of the bulk of it, but also we did do some direct focus groups as well. So the timeline, we started out kind of reviewing the past plans, as I mentioned, which were pretty robust. Phase 2 did the outreach itself, held the events. Outreach is still going on because in phase 3, we will be sharing the draft CTP, which is in progress and getting there. We will be hosting a workshop here early in the new year, just to collect feedback on the draft and really give people a chance to get some one-on-one time with planners, with us, getting all their questions answered. And then eventually we're going for the final plan rollout and public release and board approval early in the new year, or a little ways into the new year. And key findings. So just to give kind of let me get this out of the way. Give just a taste of what we heard out there. Definitely, and this is primarily based on the online survey. Strong support for prioritizing transit, biking, and walking. There's definitely a lot of transit curious folks out there that would are a lot of times we spend a lot of these, when we get out there, we're actually educating people, about what does exist in terms of transit. But, the standard kind of more routes, more headways, and kind of the east-west divide that we'll get into a little bit that I think everyone's pretty familiar with. Definitely hearing, big calls for safety, certainly for folks that are not in a vehicle. There's a lot of people that are, ready to kind of take that active transportation step as well, but are just concerned about, particular areas in their neighborhood or their routes to use. EV adoption, people are interested in it, but it's really really connected with incentives. If incentives are there, they're much more likely to go there. And certainly charging access, particularly for renters, is a big factor. And there were some EV concerns that came up as well, related to environmental impacts of, say, batteries or grid strain related to fire and PG&E infrastructure. There was some interest in e-bikes, certainly, and in shared mobility, definitely. We kind of, it's a good opportunity to bring up our own, commute rewards programs, things like that. But yeah, as I mentioned earlier, limited rural service is big, and then just transit headways and safety for non-drivers. So this is kind of just a little peek at one of the survey questions. We will be releasing the full set of data in the appendix of the CTP, but this is just kind of a glimpse at that EV question. And then reducing car use, that's a big one. And again, it's, if you can make the other alternatives cheaper, easier, more accessible, people are definitely willing to get out of their car. I do want to mention, and I know some of you were involved with this, but we did a session at Santa Rosa Junior College, and there's a big push. We had a lot of folks who had been part of the Clipper Card program, the promotional program that we did a lot of work to see if that could kind of come back, and it was a pilot program, but there is, so not everyone will be able to kind of get back on that, but there was a heck of a lot of support and I think a big push for free or reduced cost transit. And then equity in transportation, I'll kind of comment on two types of equity that we encountered here. The first is geographic. You see a picture of the Springs area in the Sonoma Valley, and then West County out near Monterey in this case. And so both of these communities, you hear a lot of talk about, folks hear about SMART, they hear about all the various options along the 101 corridor, and they'd love to take advantage of it, but the east-west stuff is difficult for them. So that's a big part of it. So that's why we're seeing like a 2.0 out of 5 rating on that question in terms of just knowing that there's a lot of room for improvement. The other part, and what I'll comment on just, and I meant to talk about it earlier, but with the CBOs, it's unfortunately there is a culture of fear out there right now in some communities. And so with, we really had trouble getting the bilingual survey out there to people that maybe didn't speak English. And so what we ended up doing was partnering with La Familia Sana, which covers Cloverdale and Geyserville. And we said, hey, we'd love to come do an event up there. They said, you're not the scary government, but you're government, and we're not gonna, people are realistically not gonna show up. So we ended up incentivizing people to take the online survey, kind of got materials, got some small incentives. It is all anonymous anyway, zip code's all we really ask for. And so we were able to get over 30 responses to that, working directly with the CBO. So I think that's really the key. And sometimes you got to push harder, but it's great information, and we're glad we got it. And demographics, age range, it's kind of interesting. We've got a good amount of older adults and a good amount of younger residents as well. Mix of full-time and part-time. I will say, yeah, numbers wise, we were just under 700 overall in terms of responses. And that's pretty good actually for a lot of what we usually get out there with. And that includes about 500 open-ended responses. So there's a lot of text that we've been pulling quotes from and just trying to look at and kind of aggregate for the final report. And yeah, income levels, majority were under 50,000. So actually this was a good chunk of lower income folks in comparison to the Sonoma County median. And then a question that's come up in the past that I think is very important is just how this information is going to be integrated into the CTP. And this will guide the development of the document. But the document directly informs SCTCA's goals and visions. And so things like the SCTCA funding program that's happening right now, feedback that we receive is really going to affect the scoring of these projects and what gets chosen to move forward and what doesn't. So it is, people always ask, that's great that you're doing a survey. Why does this matter? Well, it definitely does matter in terms of how the funds get to communities. So, yeah. And the next steps, as I mentioned, we'll be back relatively soon with a draft of the CTP. We'll be having an event and take it to the board and then release it digitally, but then with some physical copies as well, and promote it through our newsletter, social media, and meetings, as well as a full Spanish language version as soon as possible. And yeah, that's about the size of it. Please let me know if you have any questions about the outreach. I can take those questions. The CTP itself, I may angle you towards some other folks in the room, but yeah.
Got questions out there?
Did I lull you all to sleep here?
I got a couple.
Yes, please.
On your response, you said about 700 or so?
700 full
Response?
full responses. That's through the online platform. So there were
Uh-huh.
additional from the focus groups, but like the JC event, but we're talking another 40 to 60.
Any idea what your percentage of responses from what you request? I'm always
Well, we
curious.
requested in so many, yeah, and that's like key marketing stuff right there, but we requested in so many different ways that it's really difficult. So oftentimes we're getting the word out and we're only going to know when we get responses back.
Yeah.
So I don't have a great answer to that one.
Well, thank you very much for going after those hard to reach populations. Yeah.
And that, that's a moving target for all outreach. I know there was some really good work done for the CBTP stuff recently. And I think we were just really trying to, get at least one event, ideally multiple events in each area. But this will be a moving target. This will be something that happens again. And hopefully this work will also inform future projects that we do.
I have a tricky question here
Please.
for you. I try to avoid it, but I sometimes go on to Nextdoor. And I sort of
My condolences. Yeah.
I kind of, pick up on what's going on, who's got the biggest noise makers out there. And it seems like I'm just wondering how you're dealing with the bike walking funding issue. I mean, it seems like there's a lot of pushback on that. It's like, why are we doing this? I mean, we all understand the importance of safety for everybody in the community.
Yeah.
When you bring in added bike and walking systems, but how do you deal with that out there?
Well, it's a great question. I think it's important because it's actually, I personally think, and because if you look through this feedback, it is much of it does not match, many of the things that we do, but I think it's very important. And I think it's easy for us to get into some bubbles and not really, I think we're not picking it selectively. We're taking all of it. And so I think that you have some people that are vehemently opposed to, well, we didn't luckily talk about HOV lanes in this project, but active transportation, things like that. But I think most of the people there's some kind of bias in terms of who really engaged with the surveys. Because if you have some people certainly that will say, I'm opposed to everything except making traffic go faster on the freeway.
Mhm.
Absolutely. We got some of that. But usually they're not going to get too in depth beyond that. They also represent pretty well represented majorities in some ways already. So much of what we're trying to do is talk to people that often get drowned out in the uproar. But so how do we deal? I mean, Nextdoor we did not utilize directly. The county has used Nextdoor in the past. It can be valuable for some things. And again, you're hitting a different demographic even than other social media platforms.
But part of the process is sort of changing minds, right? So you feel like you're kind of.
Yeah, although I thought I was just here to listen, at least for this part of it. I'm happy to, if people are curious about active transportation or transit, love to talk about all the various options. But for this section of it, we really want to know how Sonoma County feels. And so I'm not going to correct someone if they, are opposed to something we're talking about. And also, things like I'm a cyclist. I love, it's like I like to promote all this, but some people just aren't comfortable doing that. And so, maybe there's other ways that they can avoid using a single passenger vehicle, that if they're not comfortable getting on an e-bike or something like that. So not sure if that fully answers it. But.
Great. Any more questions out there? We have any online questions?
There are no online questions.
I'll just, I know for the South Santa Rosa Community-Based Transportation Plan, they did some tabling at the Transit Mall.
Yeah.
And so for future events, just kind of throwing that out for everybody that Transit Mall, or I'm sure Copeland and Petaluma, or we transit often serves the underrepresented populations. So just putting that out there for future outreach.
Absolutely.
Great. Okay. Moving on. Line item 6, draft community-based transportation plans. And that's going to be Steph.
That's me. Let me
Chris.
share my screen. It's just me. But Chris will be in the background if I need help. Yeah, it might happen. Two very tough acts to follow. Okay. So I am here to speak to you about the community-based transportation plans for Sonoma County, or CBTPs for short. We love our acronyms here. So you may have heard about these CBTPs before, and we are coming back to let you know that we are now in the final phase of the project. We have draft plans out there, and our TAC, Technical Advisory Committee, has reviewed the documents and provided their comments. And now we are here to hear if you have any additional comments for us as we are wrapping it up and getting it to the finish line. At this point, we're at updating the draft plans, and we're going to let you know what the timeline is to roll it out. So here we have, an outline for today's presentation. The main purpose of the program has been to go out into the community, similarly to how Ross did. But in this case, we are going to 2 very specific regions and making sure that we reach the underserved communities in these regions, and just identify their needs and come up with some solutions through a list of projects that can help identify what they actually need and get them ready to be implemented. Here we see a map of the equity priority communities. Both study areas were in equity priority communities here in the county, and they were for South Santa Rosa and for Central Rohnert Park. These equity priority communities, or EPCs, are identified by MTC. We have previously done CBTPs. As you can see, we've done them in Santa Rosa, in the Roseland area, in the Russian River area, in the Sonoma Valley Springs area, and in Central Healdsburg. The CTP, which Ross just presented on, does include a tracking section where we go through all of the projects that are recommended in past CBTPs, and we can track our progress towards completing and implementing them. Here we see another map of the EPCs and the transportation plans and whether they're in the process, as in completed CBTPs or the future ones. You can see the little green squares are a little hard to see there, but those are the ones that we focused on this time around. So our first study area was in South Santa Rosa, and it is really a focus for South Santa Rosa Avenue, and it is very difficult to navigate. Everyone feels a little bit stressed when they're on it. So we got a lot of excellent community feedback on how to improve it. And here we have the study area for Central Rohnert Park. And we got some very useful feedback on how to slow down speeds and make a lot of these roads a lot safer for non-motorized vehicles. Now, a lot of people said that Dome cities already have a bunch of transportation plans and project lists, like the CDP that we just heard about. And we hear that feedback. That's a great question that we heard a lot. And yes, we do have a lot of plans. And the reason that we did this one is that EPCs are typically communities that are not heard. They are disadvantaged, they're underserved. So we just really went down to the neighborhood level and tried to get feedback on what their needs are, how we can provide solutions for them. And also, being in the CVTP category makes it eligible for grant funding. So there are grants like the CARE grant that provide funding for these CVTPs and makes them eligible for that and implementation for that. So, and I believe next year the grant, the CARE grant, correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, is for environmental review. And then 2027 will probably be implementation, hopefully. So, yeah. So our CBTP team was made up of SETCA staff and also city staff for the city of Santa Rosa and city of Runner Park. The consultant team was made up of Fern Peers, Latino service providers, Leshner Planning, and Cordova Corporation. And then each study area had a community representative committee. These community representative committees were made up of community members that specifically lived and worked in those areas. And there was one for each study area. And they also had community-based organization representatives. And then we had a technical advisory committee made up of local agencies and service providers that overlap over both study areas. And they provided a lot of useful organizational feedback as well. So we went out to the community and we had 2 phases. During phase 1, for each study area, we had 3 TAC meetings, 1 CRC meeting, and we had a website with an online survey, focus groups, and pop-ups. And as Yuri mentioned, one of the pop-ups was out in the transit center. Another one that I found to be a good location was the Redwood Food Bank. A lot of people had the time to fill out our surveys while they waited in line, and that's a great location if you do outreach. And we did this, and then we had phase 2 of engagement. During phase 1, we got a lot of feedback on what the community needed and just developed a very long list of projects that could possibly work for the community. And then during phase 2, the goal was to prioritize within that long list of projects what the priorities are for the community. During that season, we had 2 TAC meetings, 2 CRC meetings, an online survey, and a transportation resource fair in each location. So the Santa Rosa area had a resource fair in Taylor Mountain Elementary School and John Reed Elementary School in Bronard Park. We had about 8 to 10 stations to discuss the projects and food trucks, which were very popular. We had fun activities for the kids, along with safe routes to school, providing some feedback on some of the programs they have. And overall, it was a good success, and a lot of useful feedback was provided. At the Santa Rosa location, we had a very cool activity where you have a graphic of a street and you had Velcro pieces and you could put down what you wanted the streets to look like. So whether you want sitting area or whether you want restaurants or whether you want bike lanes. And that was a good way to get some more interactive feedback from the community. Here's some more graphics of what the fairs were like. And thank you, Sonoma County Transit, for bringing buses out there. The kids really loved that. We had Redwood Bike Share out there and people could check out the bikes, and we had tacos, and it was a really good time and a great way to get feedback at a neighborhood level. So now we can dive into the CBTP projects. Here is the long list that we looked at during phase 2, and we tried to prioritize the projects that people wanted to see. You can look at the CBTPs that are now public and really dive into the details. Just to streamline this a bit more, we did have project categories. Roner Park had speed management, bicycle improvements, pet improvements, trail improvements, and transit improvements. And in Santa Rosa, we had 4 transit improvements, bike improvements, pet improvements, and Santa Rosa Avenue specifically, since this was such a substantial area.
Are those in rank order?
No. And here we can see a map of South Santa Rosa Avenue and the types of projects that we want to have there. So for Santa Rosa, where's my list? Okay, so one recommendation there was to have a shared use path on Yolanda Avenue. And that would eventually help connect down to Taylor Mountain with Petaluma Hill Road. And then we have the biggest project, which was re-envision Santa Rosa Avenue. And that included transit stops, bike lanes, improved pedestrian facilities. And we really tried to categorize this in the CPTPs broadly. So there will be flexibility as funding becomes available on the types of projects that we can do there. But a lot of the feedback was make this street a little slower, more crosswalks, a little more streamlined for loading and unloading with transit stops. And projects 3 and 4 that you can see there in the darker red also included more crossings across Highway 101. So that included Todd Road and Hearn Avenue. And we worked with Sonoma County Transit and City Bus to discuss what types of crossings would make sense there to include more transit flow there. And another feedback thing that we had was improved access to Taylor Mountain for recreation. So we discussed improving sidewalks on Kiwanis Springs Road. And we also want to improve upon the multimodal connectivity on Petaluma Hill Road, make it a little more accessible for non-motorized travelers. And that's Santa Rosa, if you have any questions on that slide. Or do you want to save it for later?
I just have to say that they hit all the points that I would have hit. So they really, the public knows what they're talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I know I was part of the process. Something that's striking me right now is connections between Petaluma Hill Road and Santa Rosa Avenue, especially towards the south. And I don't know if those were identified in the plan.
There is a long list.
I see connectivity, multimodal Petaluma Hill Road, but anyways, just a comment.
Yeah, I used to ride my bike through that area, and at nighttime, especially this time of year, it's very, very dangerous and sketchy. So that's definitely was a great thing to pinpoint.
Yeah, thank you. And we do have a long list of all of the projects that were suggested. These are just the top 7 after prioritization. But yeah, we do have 3 crossings in the north, and we have Mountain View Avenue in the south, but it's not bad.
No, I mean, I guess sorry, just to add more, it would be as development fills in, right? I mean, it doesn't make sense to take green space but I don't know where that's should be placed in the plan, but
Can include that too. Here's diving into the 7 projects, and I know it's a lot of words out there, but those are the top 7 prioritized projects, and we have a description of each one and what those could look like, and we can dive into those with the plans that are now public. We have the agency that would be lead for each project or responsible for that. A possibility for a quick build project, which are like less permanent options, and a very tentative cost frame. We don't have specifically how much it would cost, but just kind of a range of how much it would cost, and the priority level on the side. All right, now Central Runner Park. This is the list of projects. I'll go through them quickly. One thing we heard a lot in every single outreach that we did in Runner Park is that Snyder Lane is very fast and very auto-oriented. So we want to look at ways to make it easier to travel for non-motorized travelers right there on Snyder Lane. And here we go. Where is right there? And then we also looked at connections with Enterprise Drive, just to do some speed management. Can you see my cursor? It's so small, right there. We also received requests to add sidewalks on the east side of Seed Farm Drive and improve access to the smart station there. You can see my cursor there. There was interest in a multi-use path on Golf Course Drive up north, and in transit stop improvements on Commerce down here. And there were requests to install buffered bike lanes on Adrian, improve access to Evergreen Elementary School up north here by Eagle Park by moving the bus stops, and that would improve access up there. And finally, we looked at any interest in having a bike ped overcrossing on Copeland Creek And we specifically did outreach, asking people whether there was interest in a bike ped overcrossing right there. Here is a list of the projects. We can dive into them later with the plan. Here are the details for them, approximate costs right there. And now next steps. So right now we are in mid-November and we are coming out with the project list and with the plans and receiving final feedback as we finalize these plans. And as we get more feedback from you committees and then eventually the board, we'll close the public comment period on the draft CBTPs at the end of December. And we'll close the website surveys mid-December 12th, and then go to the board December 8th. And then 2026 onwards, we'll advance the CBTP project priorities through the regular processes that we take projects for grants and bids, and hopefully start implementing them. So yeah, and keep an eye out on the next CTP update in 5 years, and we can see the progress we've done on the implementation of lists. And if you have any additional questions for me, let me know.
Questions? I have one, I think. In terms of the priority list that you showed with the high lows, short term, long term. I'm curious how this may be not the right question for now, but I guess I'm wondering how you prioritize the funding cycle for each of those. Because I noticed there's like just one or two items, maybe one on the Santa Rosa one. I can't see it here, but I noticed looking at it where it was like short-term high priority and where but do you know what I'm saying? I'm asking is kind of like, how does that get worked out? How do you figure that? The priorities.
I might need help from Chris on this one, but my understanding is that as grants become available, we make it work, right?
Yeah, it's based on local priorities too. I think that short term high priority one listed up there is Route 3 City Bus, and I believe that's already laid out in your short range transit plan, right? So if it's lining up with existing planned projects, that makes it a lot easier, right? It's already on the radar. There's already some development or thinking around that project, so it's closer to actual implementation. But yeah, a lot of it is local priorities at the jurisdiction level. So where the city of Santa Rosa is at with implementing some of these, or Rohnert Park, and then how they line up with different grant funding or other funding sources. So it's a pretty rough guide, but the prioritization and the costs, it's all roughly based on the feedback we received from the community and also from local staff as well. So really appreciate Yuri's support on the project, rest of local staff, helping guide the project. City Bus or Sonoma County Transit as well. So they were great partners as part of the process out in the community with us, talking to folks. And hopefully we can fund some of these projects that, a lot of it's focused on transit improvements and bicycle pedestrian improvements. So Steph mentioned that next year there's going to be some funding available to help with environmental work and additional planning. So a lot of these projects are pretty in the early phases of development. So that funding program is intended to get the projects closer to actual implementation. So there's going to be a pot of money that's going to be available for that. And there's a certain amount for Sonoma County that the region's trying to guarantee. So we'll have some money to help do some of that work. And then following that, there'll be some money for implementation as well. So, and that's just money specifically focused for the community-based transportation plan program. So there's other funding through SETCA and other sources as well that could help implement these projects as well.
Juggling act, basically. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of it's like what lines up, the timing is right for some projects, there's a champion at the city, right? That's there to help the project along. The funding's lining up, the community's supportive. So yeah, it's when you get everything lining up, that's when the projects start to happen.
It also helps to get shout outs for projects in several plans. It just makes them more competitive in the grant process for other types of grants like the ATP.
Yeah, for sure.
I'll just add that, the Route 3 was the frequency on Route 3 was a pre-COVID, we had that in place, and at COVID it was cut back. So that should be implemented, but operating funding has been difficult to things have just gotten more expensive, and so anyways, it should be implemented as soon as we can make that happen.
Great. Well, thank you for the information. I appreciate it.
And before we move on, maybe we have a quorum. Do we have a quorum?
Yeah. Do we?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
We can jump back if it's okay.
Yeah. Go back to the approval of the minutes. Anybody want to?
Second.
Aye.
Hey, okay. Good. Now we're gonna do roundtable. Who'd like to start?
I'll start and then we can just go around the table.
Yeah, anything exciting going on out there in your
For city bus, we have some new electric buses that just rolled on the yard in the last few days. So hopefully next month or two, we'll see those out in the street. Those are Gilligs. Trying to think what else. I mentioned earlier that we have the passenger portal and notifications for paratransit. We do have some additional funding for new vehicles that we need to get the vehicles ordered. So it should be here in about a year once we place those orders. Trying to think what else. I can't think of anything unless I don't think we're ready to announce our shared tickets, are we, Charles?
Oh, yeah, we have to talk about that. But I'm excited that you guys got Gilligs because we have 7 on order. So I don't know, maybe I can come by one day and get a sneak preview. They're fully equipped? You have the CAT AVL and everything, no? So I know that there was an upgrade for GMP. Before, now they have the unit in the cabinet. Do you know if the new Gilligs came with that new system?
I believe so, but we'd have to verify with Scott. So if you want to check that out before you come on over, maybe send me an email and I'll verify for you.
Yeah. Because I imagine that our 2 configurations are going to be pretty
similar. Yeah.
So yeah, probably like to come see those. You were done? You're good. Oh, okay. So the 4 new cutaways we got for Paratransit are out in service. They're performing great. We finally received the last piece to complete our electric vehicle charging project at the yard. The bus duct is in, so we're going to restart that project soon, and anticipated completion date is somewhere in the spring of 2026. We have 2 35-foot electric buses, BYDs, that should be delivered either late this month or early next month. So that's exciting. I already talked about the 7 40-foot Gilligs that we have on order also. So they should be delivered May 2026. And we also have a new transit manager coming on board December 15th. Emily Betts from Smart is our new transit manager. So we're really excited to get her on board. She's great. So we can't wait to get her on board and get stuff rolling. So
I
that's
think
it for
you
us.
guys are probably just excited about having another person in the office. Is that?
Yeah, it'll be great to have another person to share the workload. We've been just trying to stay above water for the last 5 months, so it'll be great.
Okay.
All right. With Petaluma Transit, we just got our purchase order for the electric cutaways. So we are hoping to get them operating within the next 3 months. Our electrification project is well underway. We're hoping to have that finalized by the end of the calendar year. We're planning to have some sort of ribbon cutting event sometime mid-January, so stay tuned for that. We're also working on updating our website that'll be more unified with Sonoma City Bus and Sonoma County. So it's a more unified look, and we're hoping to finish that in the next 2 to 3 months. With Lumago, which is our on-demand service that we have microtransit within Petaluma Transit, we recently upgraded our phone options, our phone tree options, so that there's 2 different ones available when folks specifically when they're calling to get updates on where their ride is or to be able to book a ride, they'll have those 2 different options. Before, they would just select that option and it would go directly to our dispatcher. So we're hoping to divvy up the phone calls so that they're getting helped more appropriately. And lastly, we recently got the Clipper 2.0 tote or the machine installed at our agency, our facility. So our dispatchers have been playing around with that. It seems to be doing okay, but there's no real way of knowing whether it's fully functioning until the launch date of December 10th. So we're just kind of waiting around until then to know whether it's been working properly, and we're planning to kind of phase it out and let folks use the previous version through the end of the year, basically.
No, we will bits now and just continue to monitor the federal changes and funding cuts that are coming through, and how it's going to affect our consumers. Probably going to see a lot of, cost assistance with Medi-Cal and Medicare cuts starting next year. So keeping an eye on that and doing what we can. And get hit by Lumico and its continued success.
Do we want to ask the folks on? Anybody, Kathleen, would you like to?
Yeah, sure. I can echo Colin in as far as the cuts to federal funding, Medi-Cal, and the clients that we serve in human services. There's a lot of concern about the impact of those changes and what it's going to do to the populations we serve. Also, as I mentioned previously, the Older Americans Act reductions. We see, a greater need in our community, increasing demographics of older adults and people with disabilities, but the funding not increasing, staying stagnant. And I'm really concerned about some of our CBOs that service our older adults and people with disabilities. They're also losing federal funding. And programs are closing. I don't know if you guys have heard, but West County Community Services, which was the only ADA-free transportation, has closed. They've closed their transportation program in West County. Circuit Rider Community Services, they have a waiting list, and they're also have challenges with funding. to sustain their volunteer driver program. And lastly, Catholic Charities Caring Rides volunteer transportation program has reduced their service from 5 days a week to 2 days a week. So we're losing a good chunk of our volunteer driver services in our community. So just to let people know that there's definitely a need for funding and for advocacy for older adult transportation and transportation for people with disabilities, specifically wheelchair transportation.
Kathleen, can I ask you real quick, Catholic Charities, what populations do they generally serve with their transportation? Is it to and from to their programs?
No, it's a volunteer driver program for the Santa Rosa community. They serve mostly the city of Santa Rosa, and it's for older adults who are 60 and over living in their service area, which is in Santa Rosa. It's not related to their programs at all. It's just a volunteer driver program for the community.
Okay, thanks.
One addition, you mentioned Clipper, and I know that and our population's disability population uses RTC, which is a regional transit discount program, and that's having a name change to Clipper Access. So it's just a name change, but if anybody hears about it, that's what.
I was just going to add to Kathleen's commentary. I think that that's a sort of a national trend that these volunteer driver programs are sort of losing. Sometimes it's funding and sometimes it's just finding the pool of volunteer drivers is becoming harder and harder, I think. And so it's a problem we're seeing across the country.
Future. I guess we're at item 8, future agenda topics. Do you want to cover that?
I can do that. So every January we elect our chair or vice chair. So just keep that in mind that that's going to be an agenda topic in the future. And we might bring Sonoma County Master Plan for Aging an update. We're working on a master plan for Sonoma County. So I'll see if we can get that on the agenda next time around.
Other business? No. Adjournment? Yeah.
Good use of gavel.